Trump had pledged to end the war in Ukraine immediately after he was elected. Instead, he's appointed retired Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg to lead the effort. Kellogg, who served as Chief of Staff on Trump's National Security Council, outlined his perspective on the conflict in a report for the America First Policy Institute back in May. Kellogg emphasized the need for strong U.S. leadership to negotiate peace, stating, "Bringing the Russia-Ukraine war to a close will require strong America First leadership to deliver a peace deal and immediately end the hostilities between the two warring parties." However, he also suggested that further U.S. aid to Ukraine should depend on Kiev's willingness to participate in peace talks. Notice they are threatening Ukraine rather than Russia here, treating Zelensky as the enemy rather than Putin. Trump falsely claimed the war would not have started had he remained in office, but he's offered limited details on how he plans to bring it to a close. His promise of a swift resolution has drawn both attention and skepticism, with questions lingering about the specifics of his strategy and how it would address the underlying tensions driving the conflict. Russian President Vladimir Putin, meanwhile, has praised Donald Trump as intelligent and experienced whilst speaking to reporters yesterday. As far as I can imagine, the newly elected president is an intelligent and already quite experienced person, Putin told reporters in Kazakhstan. He added that he's optimistic that the Trump administration will be able to ease the fraught relationship between the US and Russia. "I think he will find a solution," Putin said of Trump. You see, these faux strongmen talk as if we're stupid, as if we don't know that Putin and Trump are in cahoots and their idea of a peace agreement is siphoning off a vast swathe of Ukrainian sovereign territory and renaming it Russia. Trump has been manipulated by Putin to think that this is what peace looks like. There is no expertise here. There is no diplomacy. There is no strategy. It's just Trump kowtowing to Putin as a big thank you for helping him win the election. Meanwhile, the head of Britain's Foreign Intelligence Service said Russia was conducting a staggeringly reckless sabotage campaign against Ukraine's Western allies, and intelligence services were working to stop the consequences from spiraling out of control. Richard Moore said that were Vladimir Putin to succeed in reducing Ukraine to a vassal state, he would not stop there.
We again have a war on European soil. Nicola and I are in no doubt about what is at stake in Ukraine. If Putin is allowed to succeed in reducing Ukraine to a vassal state, he will not stop there. Our security, British, French, European and transatlantic, will be jeopardized. The cost of supporting Ukraine is well known, but the cost of not doing so would be infinitely higher. If Putin succeeds, China would weigh the implications, North Korea would be emboldened, and Iran would become yet more dangerous. We have recently uncovered a staggeringly reckless campaign of Russian sabotage in Europe, even as Putin and his acolytes resort to nuclear saber-rattling, to sow fear about the consequences of aiding Ukraine and challenge Western resolve in so doing. Such activity and rhetoric is dangerous and beyond irresponsible.
Abandoning Ukraine would threaten the security of Britain, Europe and the United States while leading to infinitely higher long-term costs, said the head of MI6 Richard Moore. In a rare speech, Moore urged continued support for Ukraine, addressing concerns that the future US Republican administration will reduce aid to Kiev. Speaking in Paris alongside his French counterpart, Moore cautioned that if Vladimir Putin succeeded in subjugating Ukraine, he would not stop there. Our security, British, French, European and transatlantic, will be jeopardized, Moore said. Trump has criticized the costs of supporting Ukraine and has repeatedly suggested that he could end the conflict within 24 hours. His vice president-elect, J.D. Vance, has proposed freezing the conflict along the current front lines and delaying Ukraine's NATO membership. Moore countered such arguments, warning that the consequences of failing to support Ukraine would be dire. The cost of supporting Ukraine is well known, he said, but the cost of not doing so would be infinitely higher. If Putin succeeds, China would weigh the implications, North Korea would be emboldened, and Iran would become even more dangerous, he said. Moore also highlighted the broader geopolitical stakes, noting that North Korea's involvement in Ukraine has expanded authoritarian influence from Asia into a European conflict. Britain is urging the incoming US administration to consider how Russia's actions in Ukraine intersect with rising military threats from China. In a speech commemorating the 120th anniversary of the Entente Cordiale, Moore emphasised the UK's enduring intelligence partnership with France, while expressing confidence that UK-US intelligence ties would remain strong despite political shifts. For decades, the US-UK intelligence alliance has made our societies safer. I worked successfully with the first Trump administration to advance our shared security and look forward to doing so again, he said. Moore also accused Russia of launching a staggeringly reckless campaign of sabotage across Europe, referencing incidents of arson, assassination, and kidnapping. The Kremlin, meanwhile, has maintained its demands for Ukraine, blaming NATO policies for provoking the 2022 invasion. Moscow continues to insist on the demilitarization and denazification of Ukraine, proposing that Ukraine's military be reduced to 50,000 troops and claiming sovereignty over 4 Ukrainian provinces, only one of which is fully occupied. Trump has no idea what he's getting himself and the rest of the world into. He thinks this is play acting, an extension of his reality TV career. He has no concept of how many people have died and will die as a result of his negotiation with a terrorist state like Russia. Another example of the Trump amateur hour, egged on by his partner in crime, Elon Musk. I fear this won't end well. I'm Anthony Davis. You can find me on the 5 Minute News YouTube channel and podcast, on Wednesdays co-hosting Uncovered, and on Sunday on The Weekend Show with Midas Touch.